Growing up, I was a Nintendo kid. I had the holy trifecta of devices. I grew up on the GameCube, DS, and Wii. One of the core games I played throughout my childhood, other than Pokemon, the other franchise I make videos on, was Mario Party. As a kid, I had all of them on their respective consoles, which meant that I had Mario Parties 4 through 9 and DS. Now that I've grown up, I've collected all of them, even getting my own Nintendo 64 just so I could say, yeah, I own every single physical copy. The DS and 3DS games, and the Switch games too. Yeah, I have them all, except for Advance, but that game isn't real, so. I would invite my friend to my house all the time and we'd play Mario Party. I'd go to his house and bring a console so we could hook it up and play over there. It's what we did. The one game we played the least, though, was Mario Party 8. It was probably our least favorite growing up. Oddly enough, the ones we played the most were Mario Party 7 and 9. Now that I've grown up, I have them all and have done everything to do in every single Mario Party game there is. So which is my least favorite? Well, it's actually Mario Party 10, but coming in a close second to last place is Mario Party 8. That's not to say I hate everything about it. In fact, one of my favorite boards of all time comes from this game. There are some very questionable things in this game, and for the most part, I think the cons of this game heavily outweigh the pros. So in typical fashion, I usually review games and talk about things as the story progresses. This is the first game in which I don't have a story to do that to, so let's just talk about them by menu selection order. Before we can do that, we have already run into my first problem with this game. I just opened it. Mario Party 8 was a port of a GameCube game. This was intended to release on the GameCube, but last second was ported onto the Wii. This right here will lead to a multitude of issues. First, we see the title screen, a full screen with full range of motion for the Wii remote. Normal, right? This game is 16 by 9 half the time, presented mainly in the menus, like the main menu, character selection, those sorts of things. Then during the actual gameplay, it switches into an aspect ratio of 4 by 3. Normally, I wouldn't be all that bothered by this, but when in the aspect ratio of 16 by 9, your motion controls are not allowed to go past the parameters of 4 by 3, even when the game is in 16 by 9. Yet literally on the main menu, we saw that it can go past and move in full range in 16 by 9. So on the screen selecting your character, there's just a break in the motion controls when you hit the parameter. This might be the worst presentation for a Mario Party game by far. During the boards, they have nothing to fill this empty space with. I haven't even gotten to the actual menu yet. Our first topic brings us to the normal party boards that have made this franchise so successful. Looking at our character roster, we have the normal choices and 2 unlockable characters. Those 2 characters are Blooper and Hammer Bro. Out of all the choices, I can respect Hammer Bro, but Blooper? The squid? In order to get these characters, you have to complete the story mode, which we will get to later, but after completing the story, you get one of the characters. It'll be completely random which one you get. In order to get the other one, you have to redo the entire story mode playing as the new character you unlocked. It might be the most tedious way to unlock the characters, and might be the only time I play story mode. Bonus stars! Going through more menus to set up your experience, bonus stars are stars that'll be given to players for being the best at some sort of hidden stat being kept throughout the game. There will be 3 at the end of the game, and can possibly affect who comes in first. The possible bonus stars are Minigame Star, awarded to who wins the most coins from minigames, Green Star, awarded to who lands on the most event spaces, Candy Star, awarded to who eats the most candy, which are items, Running Star, awarded to who travels the most spaces, Shopping Star, awarded to whoever buys the most candy from shops, and the Red Star, whoever lands on the most red spaces. Before Mario Party 7, there were only the same 3 bonus stars, and because they never change, you could have made it a viable strategy to purposely alter your course of path and try to get those free bonus stars at the end of the game. For example, choosing an alternate path just so you can land on a happening space, or purposely using an item when you don't need to. After Mario Party 6, however, they added many bonus stars and created a rotation system so you no longer know which stars will be present until the game is over. I personally have these on just for the unpredictability in a close game. Now, moving on with our 6 boards. I will be explaining all of these boards in order and, well, also giving my opinion on them. Starting with DK's Treetop Temple, the box standard board with the classic Mario Party mechanics. Now, for those who have never played a Mario Party game, let's give a quick rundown. Each board will have their own specific goal. For this board, the goal is to travel to the star space with 20 coins to buy a star. Every time you buy a star, the space moves to a different spot on the board. Blue spaces give you 3 coins, red takes 3 from you. These green spaces are happening spaces that trigger an event. What happens is also board dependent, and these count towards the green star. There are also shops scattered across to buy candy from. At the end of each turn, everyone plays a minigame to win more coins. Whoever has the most stars wins. To roll the dice, you have to manually punch the die. Now, the reason I mention this is not because I think it's hard or anything, in fact I think it's fun, but I mention this because if you are not rolling the die and you move your remote, your character does a taunt emote, which gets really annoying. I move around a lot when I play long games such as Mario Party, so if I were to unmute the audio playing from this video clip and give you the full 50-minute playthrough, you'd probably hear the taunting at least 5 times a turn. Now let's thoroughly explain this board and pick it apart. Also, see what I mean by this 4:3 aspect ratio appearance? I seriously don't know why this made the final cut. First, starting with this intro shot. This really feels like a Donkey Kong Country level turned into a board. I like it. This to me is a good intro board, simple to understand for newcomers, but also has a lot going for it. Each board has their own gimmick, and for this one, it's these cannons. Pay 5 coins and the cannons will send you to one of these platforms. You don't get to pick though, it's completely random. These aren't used very often, but if you're super far from a star, you might as well use it to see if you get closer. Talking about what happening spaces do, these piranha plants will take 10 coins from you. The happening spaces with the spear guy symbol next to them has you forcefully giving them a candy from your inventory in exchange for coins. If you have no candy, he gives you 5 coins out of pity. The happening spaces make you go down this water slide, giving you some coins. And these final ones have these little monkeys called ukikis roll some barrels down the course until you're past the nearest conjunction. Also on the boards are Bowser and DK spaces. Only one of them appears at a time, and when landed on, it'll switch over to the other character once the event is over. The DK space acts as a space that'll send you straight to the star. When you land on it, DK pops out of a barrel and will throw you right to where the star is. Bowser, on the other hand, will just move the star space to another place. A lot of boards will have Donkey Kong and Bowser spaces acting as giving and taking away a star. They're always going to be polar opposites of each other. There is one space that I'm yet to talk about, and that's because I truly think these are dumb. Lucky spaces. Now, I am all for a free star, but I think calling it a lucky space is completely misleading. All you have to do is land on it, and you get transported to the strip behind the actual board. Each space is filled with loads of coins. Once you're at the end of the strip, you get a free star and are transported back to the start. The only thing lucky about this is the probability of landing on it, which can be completely manipulated with an item. I always carry a candy called the Slow Go candy. Essentially, it cuts the dice in half, only allowing you to roll a 1 through 5, but the dice is slow so that you can time the number you want. That means if you're in range of a lucky space, it's practically guaranteed that you land on it. I feel like Hudson deliberately made the dice 1 through 5 on purpose because they knew the full 1 through 10 was going to be way too broken for this. Sometimes I don't even go for the star and rather just try and manipulate my way to getting a lucky space. It doesn't change spots either, it just stays in the same spot every game every time you land on it. You can just repeat this the entire game and win that way. For 5 out of the 6 boards, this space requires no luck. When we get to the board where it does actually require luck, I'll talk about how it is actually luck. Until then, it's just here. I mentioned an item called Slow Go Candy, but I haven't talked about all the items in this game, and I'd like to take the time to do this now. Since this is the first board with simple mechanics, I'd like to take this time to explain all items or things that could spice up the game. All items come in the form of a candy, and are color-coded based on what they do. Red candies are movement-based, consisting of candies that give you 2 or even 3 dice, or a Slow Go candy as I just mentioned. Green candies affect opponents before one's rolled their die. This could be losing coins, stealing coins, or moving to a player's space before they roll. Yellow candies affect opponents during their roll. This could be stealing one's coins when they get passed, or stealing an item when you pass them, or sending them back to start. or you could even gain extra coins for every space that you step on. Blue candies have no distinct feature. They're kinda random. The Rockhead mix players lose half of their coins, and Duelo candy is the only way to duel another player. Now, before talking about the atmosphere, I also want to use this first board to break down the last 5 turns, or what we like to call it, chump charity. First, last place gets a Duelo candy, and then he also dumps coins over every space on the board. Not just for last place, but for everyone. Usually, the last 5 turns are here to benefit last place or make it harder for first place to keep their lead, and also spice up the game by a lot. Remember in Mario Party 5 when there was a chance of adding 5 star spaces at once? That shit was crazy. But here, it's the same thing every time. And not to mention, this also helps the person in first place already. The guy in first can collect a shit ton of coins, expanding his lead over everyone else. I don't know, I don't think it would be fair for the first timer playing Mario Party to have an event forcibly brought upon us that helps the guy in first. And this is the event for every board, it never changes. While I'm also talking about the benefits for last place, I want to talk about the Duelo candy mechanic. Not the games themselves, I'm saving that for when I talk about minigames in general, but the dartboard mechanic. If you are the one defending a duel, you are literally only playing to save yourself. The rewards you get for winning as the one being attacked is far inferior to what the attacker can potentially get. Pocket change compared to literal stars. What's also stupid is if, let's say, the attacker has no coins but 1 star, that doesn't change the dartboard. It's still all coins. So you just played a duel minigame to steal nothing. You saved yourself from losing something. That's it. If the defender has nothing the attacker can steal, then you initiate the minigame anyways because there's a possibility that the defender might win. This is so dumb. Why is it like this? Mario Party 7 did this as well, but at least the defender had opportunity to steal stars. The only problem with how Mario Party 7 did it was that the wheel has an option to do nothing. They take that option off the wheel, and I think it's alright. But Mario Party 8 just takes what's already bad and makes it 1,000 times worse. Why can't we go back to choosing the wager beforehand so we know the stakes of the duel before we even play? Like, imagine playing the duel knowing you might lose a star before it even begins. Not only was that the original appeal, but it was also efficient and made sense. There's a possibility that you played a duel game for no reason, whereas in the old games you set the wager before the duel so that no duel was ever useless. The dice roll also ends as soon as you pass a player. So with the double dice you get from the Duelo, you could roll a 19 or a 20, but only use 6 of the spaces because you ran into somebody. Anyways, talking about the atmosphere, I usually look at how the board incorporates its surroundings into the board. For one thing, I really like how the spaces are actual blocks and have a 3D shape. This is the only board that has the spaces pop out, and I kinda think it was a miss. I really like the spaces like this. All of the crossing paths and ladders kind of remind me of the old Donkey Kong games for some odd reason. You swing on vines, I like the water slide you go down, the cages you climb across. There's some good creativity here. For starter boards, I really like this one. 1 for 1 so far on good boards. Goomba's Booty Boardwalk. Before making these review videos, I really don't look too much into what other people think about the things I'm talking about. I try to have my own opinion, and then once I get that opinion out there, then I see what others think. And for this board, I think it sucks. DK's Treetop Temple is the only board in Mario Party 8 that uses the classic formula, so here on out, each board is going to have a unique gimmick. This board's gimmick is that it is a super long movement-based board. Along the way, you pay the dolphins? Okay. And they can give you a ride so you can spend less turns getting to the end of the road. At the end of the road is a Goomba who will give you a star for free just because you made it to the end. I think you can see my problem with this board. The only thing you can spend money on are items and the dolphins, and this creates either an extravagant surplus of money throughout the game, or you're dead broke the entire time not being able to afford anything. Not to mention, this is the longest board in the game, having a total space count of 66. This board really comes down to who can gain the most from minigames or items. So if you suck at minigames, you better have some damn good money management skills. Explaining what the happening spaces do, piantas that are fishing will fish up a random candy and will let you keep it because this man's trying to feed his family. candy doesn't suffice in this world either, I guess. Other Piantas, the ones standing around, will pick you up and throw you to a farther space. The happening space next to the abandoned ship has the player receiving a varying amount of coins from a treasure chest. This last happening space, 3 spaces away from Captain Goomba, sends you all the way back to the start. The biggest dick punch, or tit slap, in the game. You get kidnapped too. What did I do? To any unfortunate soul that has hit this, may you get up and win your toughest battles. The DK space does not act like a magic lamp on this board. Instead, you deposit 5 coins into a barrel and shake the Wii remote for a small amount of time, and your coins will increase based on how well you shake. If you have no coins, DK will give you 10. Bowser, on the other hand, has you play a small little game with some lava bubbles, and every time you hit the lava bubbles, you lose 10 coins. Neither character has an important effect that can alter the game like last board, so I'm kinda disappointed with what they do here. Since there are only the basic spaces in this game, you know, blue, red, and happening, I feel like it would have been a lot better across all the boards to have Bowser and Donkey Kong as separate spaces, creating more diversity. Because what the hell is this space distribution? 46 blues on a board with 66 spaces. Remember how I was venting that the duel system sucks ass in this game? Maybe they should have made a dual space, and keeping that shady mechanic, the person who landed on it was classified as the attacker. I say keeping the terrible mechanic because hypothetically having a dual space have a different mechanic than already established is even dumber than dueling itself. If you're going to be terrible, at least be consistent doing so. The lucky space is always on this bridge and will take you away to a private island. Get to the end and receive a free star. Instead of returning you to the start, you get sent back to the lucky space and you can continue on your journey. Definitely more rewarding than the last board. This lucky space happens less often simply because of the fact that you only pass it once until you restart the cycle. So I would say more luck is required to land on it, but given the chance you can still manipulate the odds. If you have 2 spaces remaining left on your roll and buy a ride from this first dolphin, it's a guaranteed lucky space, which is easily how I landed on it twice during this playthrough. The main problem I have is that the board expects you to spend your money on the board. But if you get a triple dice from an item drop, you can stack that and possibly get to the end off of one roll. You're gonna use the item because you got it for free. Pickup items are also given to you right in the very beginning, so odds are you might not even need to go spend for a bit depending on the item you get. I don't know, every time I have played this board, it's always been very lopsided and it doesn't make it very memorable because all of my funny moments happen either from the canon or from other boards. Don't get me wrong, I love the beach theme here and the music is super upbeat, especially that beginning sound after every minigame that plays. It gets stuck in my head. I really just think they missed with this board for me. 1 for 2 on good boards so far. King Boo's Haunted Hideaway. Welcome to Mario Party's take on a roguelite board. I'm gonna say it straight up, this is my favorite board in Mario Party 8. It might even be my favorite board of all time if it weren't for Bowser's Pinball Machine from Mario Party DS. I'm not even kidding, this board is so memorable to me. And that, my friends, is the hot take of the video that'll have me standing like this. Especially when boards like these exist. This board's mechanic is that you don't know the board's layout. You start in the courtyard in one of the 4 cardinal directions. As you roll and take turns, you have to explore the board, revealing more and more as you go on. Each part of the board is divided up into small little squares, each containing about 4 to 7 spaces, cutting off the rest of the board until you go through the door, revealing another 4 to 7 spaces. Even if you tried to zoom out, you could only see the rooms that you've been through. You can't just cheat your way through the maze. Not to mention that there are split paths, essentially making this a maze. Your goal is to reach King Boo, and for 10 coins, he will give you a star. This isn't the only room though. There are other rooms containing pitfall traps. Run into one of those and you get sent back to the courtyard. But any progress made discovering the map will be saved and others can use that knowledge, learning that, hey, this route leads to a pitfall. Not to mention, some routes of a map may loop you back to a place that you've already been to. Once somebody finds King Boo, everyone gets sent back to the courtyard, the map resets, and you have to explore an entirely new layout. Now, I've played this map a lot, but to my memory, I have never had a layout repeat. This map is different every time you run through it, and that to me makes this map so f***ing fun. The Mario Party wiki says that there are 12 set rooms, and those same 12 rooms are shuffled to create a new map. But I do not believe that for a second. Referencing another video that has also played this board, the Runaway guys have encountered a couple of patterns that go against any idea of the same 12 rooms being used over and over again. If you watch their run of this board and look at all the final patterns that they've explored, there are some crazy layouts that don't line up with what the wiki implies. Going last on this board is a really good advantage because you get kind of a head start on the layout because everyone has gone before you, and you can kind of play off of them. My complaint with this map is that if you do find a room and you have remaining spaces you could possibly move on your dice roll, when you get sent back to the courtyard, you no longer can move. So you can essentially waste a dice roll because you found the wrong room. Every now and then a womp will appear and you have to pay coins to go through that path. The womp will then block the other path until someone pays him to go through that route. Now let's get to explaining the happening and shit, because there are a set of never-changing happening spaces on every layout. Piranha plants appear again, stealing 12 coins from anyone who lands on it. The spaces next to the magic mirror will bring another player to your space. This is determined by a wheel you can't pick. I can kind of see this being useful if the path to a star is already explored and want to prevent someone from getting out of it out of luck. I would argue that I would want it the other way around, but because we have no idea what the board layout is, I think this works as is. The spaces next to these little mice let you spin a roulette with the chance of either stealing coins, a candy, or a star from a player. And finally, the spaces next to the chest. You either get a candy, 20 coins, or a horde of red boos that steal 10 coins from you. Donkey Kong will block one of the pitfall rooms, and if you find the room he blocked, you get a free star. Landing on a Bowser space will lead him to block a pitfall room, and if you find his room, you will lose a star. If you do find one of these rooms, you will get sent back to the courtyard, but the layout will not change. It'll just mark the room with an X, because it's a pitfall room once again. Now, I know I've shit on the lucky space for the last two boards, but this is the one time that it genuinely lives up to its name. Just like the board, the lucky space's position also changes. And because all of the rooms are so small, there's a chance you pass it by accident. This happens so many times that once you pass it, you can basically kiss it goodbye and wait until the next board change. Even then, you can't manipulate the luck of the space because you don't know when it'll show up, and there are no slow dice candy on this board. In fact, there are some runs through the board where you might not even see it. If you do manage to somehow land on this lucky space, you walk up a flight of stairs to the second floor. Walk to the end, receive a free star, and guess what? That pipe sends you down straight to King Boo. You essentially get a free star and then another star for 10 coins. But just because you land on the lucky space doesn't mean you get a free star automatically. If someone finds King Boo before you receive your free star, the layout changes and everyone, including you, gets sent back to the courtyard, meaning that you never get your free star. Toad somehow landed on the lucky space 3 f***ing times, and not a single star because someone had gotten King Boo before he made it to the end. This is single-handedly the most infuriating lucky space in the game, and honestly, with how manipulative the other lucky spaces are, I can't even call it a complaint. It feels refreshing that this is genuinely the luckiest thing to happen to you in this game. If all lucky spaces had some sort of element that made it harder to get, then I wouldn't have as much as a problem with the space as I do now. In fact, the only way I found out that the lucky space sends you straight to King Boo was because of research. It's so rare that I myself, in the life of playing this game, have never experienced this. Thank you, research. Also, I never mentioned this, but the host of this game is really funny and has some funny moments, especially on this map. MC Ballyhoo is one of my favorite hosts in Mario Party. Oh! Makeover Mojo! Stefan Waite was the one who voiced Ballyhoo and is honestly the light in a dark cave for this game. The chump charity on this board is really funny to me. Last place gets a Duelo candy and then the board is spread with coins once again. But once King Boo is found, the layout changes, erasing every single coin from the board. So if you find the star within the same turn, essentially chump charity never even happened. I find it hilarious since I think chump charity is already stupid. Not to mention, the music for this map is really spooky for this game, and another favorite of mine. Here's a snippet. It's something I could bop my head to while playing this board. The mood really amplifies the maze structure and works really well in the context it's being used in. The textures of the spaces also resemble this crystal-looking space, which is a small detail that I've always enjoyed. The spaces for the rest of the boards are just flat, so I just felt the need to mention that for DK's Treetop Temple and this board. Also, last thing, for some reason, if you play this map with CPUs on a hard or very hard difficulty, I swear on my life that at least one of them is programmed to know the route by default. I don't know, it just feels like it. I'm not saying this is true, it just feels like that's what happens. If anybody knows whether or not this is true, I would love to know in the comments. I haven't seen anything on it, and I'm dying to know if this assumption is true or not. 2 for 3 on maps so far, and one very controversial opinion. I don't actually know about the general consensus about this map, I just know it's not considered the best board ever like I say it is. Shy Guy's Perplex Express. First thing I see when I enter this board is a blurry stock image of a mountain in the background. This is most apparent when you land on the lucky space and don't have a train blocking it. Great start, fellas. All aboard a 5-car train that you must run across. At the head of the train, there's Shy Guy who will give you a star for 20 coins. Just like Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, this is a linear movement-based map, except the star isn't at the end of the route, it's in the middle. Once you get the star, you climb on top of the train and have to travel by roof back to the start, and then through the train cars once again. The gimmick of this board is that certain happening spaces make it so that the order of the train cars gets swapped. Kamek will take the frontmost car and send it all the way to the rear end so that all the cars will shift up one, meaning that those on the roof will also get their positions changed as well. Now, I would like this gimmick, but there are 9 total happening spaces, and only 3 of them actually activate this event, 2 on the roof and 1 in the cars. The one next to the vent on the roof, the one next to Celebrity Koopa in the red car, and the one on top of the Indigo car. Those are the only ones that trigger this event. The other happenings are Celebrity Koopa. As I mentioned, it is a place to sell candy that you have. She will give you coins for candy that you sell to her. The 2 spaces with a vent next to it will either send you up or down the vent, depending on which space you land on that's next to the vent. On the roof of the green car, a Shy Guy will ask for assistance as one of the candies got stolen from Celebrity Koopa. He'll tell that either Bandit or Mouse stole the candy, and you must remember which car they were in. Bit of a memory game, 20 coins if you're correct. On top of the red car, players on the roof get hit by a height bar and get sent back to start. The last happening space is on top of the light blue car, and a Shy Guy will throw a coin bag into the engine's firebox, which causes them to land on the players and give them coins. I just think this idea falls flat simply because there aren't enough happening spaces to support it. You don't really see the train cars changing too often, but rather the other events happening more often. This leaves the board feeling like a copy of Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, except smaller. The DK spaces have Donkey Kong hijacking the engine car and replacing it with his own. Why? If you get to the car, he rewards you with the free star. Bowser does the same thing, except getting to his car will end up having you lose a star. The lucky space has the same problem as DK and Goomba's map, in which it is way too easy to land on. The train will stop at a station, and at the end you receive a free star. These 2 amazingly strong Shy Guys hand-car you back to the train. Like I said in the beginning, that's certainly one way to get past the GPU limitations of this game. On the topic of manipulating a dice roll, the AI of this game is programmed so that the CPUs will always miss their slow dice roll by 1. I don't know why this is, but it's always funny to me because it's essentially just a benefit to the player. Here are some examples of this. Wario missed his roll. He was actually trying to land on the Bowser space because Peach was right next to the engine room. In the board we're going to talk about next, this lucky space was missed. On another board, Dry Bones missed this happening. It happens every single time. In most scenarios I play this board, the Shy Guy's engine is hardly even there. It is so often that someone lands on the DK or Bowser space that turns this board into a free star frenzy, accompanied by those losing stars to Bowser, and then landing on a lucky space. I just think this board is an idea that missed the mark due to the lack of actually seeing the gimmick of the board. 2 for 4 on board so far. Koopa's Tycoon Town. A heavy fan favorite from this game. Many consider this to be one of the best boards ever made, but we already know my opinion on that. That's not to say this board is bad. In fact, I also really like this board. If you've ever played Mario Party 7, this is an upgraded and more polished version of Windmillville. The main gimmick of this board is real estate. On this board, there are 5 hotel chains, and you have to invest coins into those hotels in order to obtain stars. Other players can invest more into that same hotel to steal a star, making them the new owner of the hotel.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Hotels aren't just worth only 1 star though. The more money invested into a hotel, the more stars it can give you, maxing out at 3. Once a hotel has achieved at least 20 total coins invested, the hotel becomes a 2-star hotel. When the hotel upgrades, it only benefits the owner giving them the star. When the hotel obtains 50 total coins in investment, it turns into a 3-star hotel. If a player decides that they want to deposit 100 coins into a hotel for some odd reason, that makes the hotel unstealable. In fact, a prompt pops up telling you that it's useless investing in it. 100 coins is the max someone can invest into a hotel, and whoever hits that limit first keeps it. Instead of 1 lucky space, there are now 2 on this board. Bro. Seriously, who thought of this line? Crazy Taxi Koopa drives you to a street off the board, and on the strip there is a 3-star hotel waiting for you. Deposit what you want into it and receive those 3 stars. Let me remind you that there are 2 lucky spaces. The other lucky space takes you to a different street with a different free 3-star hotel to invest in, potentially giving you the chance at 6 stars until someone else lands on the lucky space. These lucky space hotels also can be stolen, which makes landing on the lucky spaces for stars once again a valid strategy. I don't know why, but they decided to make this song so chaotic. I like the atmosphere it creates for the board though. With the cars driving like drunk people, it definitely feels fast-paced. Explaining happening spaces, those in front of alleys cause a bandit to appear and steal coins from a random hotel, and then he'll give those stolen coins to the player. Bandit usually steals enough coins to give another player the lead or until the hotel is demoted to the lower star level. He steals 30 coins from the top player of a hotel if neither of those can be achieved before passing that 30 coin limit. The 2 happening spaces in front of the construction site gives you coins, the one with a Koopa stand lets a certain player win coins via dartboard, and happening spaces with nothing around them will take you to a random hotel because you decided you should drive around with strangers. Not very smart, but also at the same time, the characters look both ways when crossing the road. Who said games couldn't be educational? Donkey Kong arrives in his own cab, investing 20 or 30 coins into a random hotel on behalf of the player. Bowser pulls up in his pimped out vehicle and takes away 10 coins from everyone's investments from a random hotel. The reason that this board is a heavy fan favorite is because of how vastly different it is from every other board we've played so far. Stars are a finite resource. There are 11 stars a player can claim, 21 if you max everything out and invest in both lucky hotels. Talking about the CPUs, they make some really stupid investments. If the amount of coins they have can't fulfill the needed amount they need to take over the hotel, they'll just dump a random amount into the hotel for no reason. They even do this if they already own the hotel. I play all boards on hard difficulty and they still do this for nothing. Hammer Bro invested enough coins to basically just give me a free star and he didn't even take ownership of the hotel. For Chump Charity, the last player is given 20 to 30 coins instead of a Duelo candy. This is primarily because you can't steal stars through duels. The board still gets covered with coins though. Because of how small the board is, hotels get stolen quite a lot and more often than not, you can find yourself being in it to win it all the way up until the final turn. One's 11-star lead can vanish in the matter of 3 turns if everyone steals a different hotel. Some crazy comebacks can happen on this board, so I advise that if you find yourself in dead last the last 5 turns, you should still go for a win because it's definitely possible. Comparing this to Mario Party 7 a bit, because Windmillville is my favorite map in Mario Party 7, I see this as a massive upgrade. In Mario Party 7, all the windmills had a set value. Certain windmills were worth 1, some were worth 2, and there was one in the center worth 3. You couldn't change the value of the windmill no matter how many coins you invested into it. You only invested more to either steal from someone else or to prevent stealing. There was no progressive system in stars like how it is in Koopa's Tycoon Town. I talk about Mario Party 7 though because this board was a much needed stepping stone to perfect this mechanic. Even though I find the atmosphere in 8 to be a lot drier than 7's board, the gimmick being perfected and the gameplay of the board significantly makes up for the fact that I think it's kind of dry looking. I say this board is dry because Windmillville is far more colorful and interacts with the atmosphere a lot more. These small critiques don't change my overall opinion with this board. I think Koopa's Tycoon Town is a very strong board and one of my favorites. I just wanted to acknowledge its predecessor because I like this gimmick. 3 out of 5 on boards. Let's see what our final board has to offer. Beyond space, beyond time, and beyond decency, we're in the blackest hole of them all. Ew, what? Pause. I f***ing love this guy, man. Bowser's Warped Orbit is unlocked by playing through Story Mode. Once you defeat Bowser, you not only get a character, but you get access to this board in Party Mode. This is the first Bowser-based board to not have any lava. Instead, we're in a space station floating above the sun, which kinda looks like lava, I guess? This board has a star stealing mechanic once again, not like Koopa's Tycoon Town, but rather in the likes of Snowflake Lake from Mario Party 6 and Pyramid Park in Mario Party 7. Each player starts with 5 stars and must race around the board finding 2 exclusive candies to this board, the Bowser Candy and Bullet Candy. Bullet Candy gives you 3 dice, and every time you pass someone you steal 1 star. Bowser Candy gives you 2 dice, but when you pass someone you steal 2 stars instead of 1. I should mention that when you are in these forms, you do skip any board events when you roll. These candies are the only way of stealing stars, so make sure you stock up on them. The board itself is a circle with 3 locked cross sections. Every time you step on the button before the cross section, a door will open up. It's a random chance whether or not it's left or right. The reason I bring this up is because these split paths essentially act as one of your few safe spots along the board. There's a 50-50 chance that when someone's trying to steal a star from you, they might get sent to the other path. Compared to the previous times we've seen this mechanic, this version of it seems a lot safer than what the other 2 were trying to accomplish. I'll talk about what I mean by that a bit later. Let's get on to explaining the happening spaces. The 2 happening spaces connected to this long tube sucks you in and transports you to the other side, giving you some coins in the process. The happening space next to Kamek will take everyone's candy and shuffle them around. All of the unmarked happening spaces will do one of 2 things. Bowser will flip the direction of the board, meaning that you now go in the opposite direction, or he will drive around the entire board chasing everyone and leaving everyone caught in his path all on the same space. Okay, Bowser also has some hilarious lines in this game as well, I gotta admit. The only way you can avoid this cart is if the cross path that he goes about is the one you are not in. There are a lot of movement-based events on this board. Donkey Kong spaces will have him descend from space on a satellite and give you a free star. I cannot make this shit up, this is genuinely what happens. Bowser, on the other hand, will take away a star. This is the only time that a star can be added into circulation, and at the same time, take away a star from circulation. This also can provide a rare oddity. If you have 0 stars and land on a Bowser space, he gives you 10 coins instead, and the space goes back to a DK space. This creates an instance in which you could potentially add 2 stars in a rotation. It's very rare that it could happen, but it is a possibility. The lucky space does not give you a free star. You still get transported to a separate path loaded with coins, but instead of the star, your entire inventory gets filled with either Bowser Candy or Bullet Candy. I generally like these star stealing boards, but the most common complaint I have with all of them is that they can get out of hand pretty quickly. One person can pull super far ahead and make it hard for someone to come back, but for this version exclusively, there will always be one person who is stuck at the bottom the entire game. The reason I make this claim is how the star stealing candies are obtained. The only way you can get these are by shops in the random chance of a pickup item. Unlike Mario Party 6 and 7, you steal stars through items and not by the board itself. This leads to shops being the most important thing on the board. If those in last place can't afford the shop, then guess what? You pick up an item off the road, hobo. Other than the happening space that takes you to the other side of the board, the only way to get coins is by blue spaces, mini games, or guess what? Candies you need to pick up because you can't afford the item shop. In previous games, the chain chomps were part of the board. You have the opportunity to use items and steal stars, giving you the chance to do possibly more with less. Sure, the chain chomps also cost money, but they vary in price depending on how many dice you want. You can choose what to spend as well. Not to mention, using a candy skips all possible board events just like the chain chomps do. That's why being able to use an item and a chain chomp is way better than just an item. While this version is flawed because of how little safe spots there are, a lot of star steals do happen. It just takes about 4 turns to get really hectic, which honestly isn't that long. I just feel like this board is a played out version of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Bowser stages, in my opinion, usually have the best music. The sounds of the brass overbearing in a good way, and then the woodwinds come in to provide some sort of suspenseful chasing sound. For a place that doesn't visually give off the typical Bowser feel, the music makes up for that by giving the board a Bowser sound. Despite all of my complaints about this board, I enjoy it, even if I think both versions that came before are better than the ones we got with this game. 4 to 6 on the boards. Overall, I really like how different and vast the gameplay of each board consists of. I think it's the strongest part of Mario Party, which means that surely when we play all of these boards in story mode, they can't be worse, right? Right?
Oh shit, here we go again.
Welcome to the Star Battle Arena. Here, MC Ballyhoo is hosting a competition on who wants to be the superstar. You know, the usual story. The superstar receives a 1-year supply of candy. 1, that doesn't look like 1 year to me, maybe like 3 months, I don't know, I might just be fat. Or 2, I feel like it should be a lifetime supply. Anyways, you compete against an opponent with the board shortened down and a somewhat different objective. Sometimes a board has a different objective, or sometimes the mechanic is altered a bit. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. I'll explain each board thoroughly once again. Every board also has you going up against one other person, so it's kinda like a duel. So once again, let us go through these boards, except these reviews will be a lot shorter, because there's a lot less to go over. DK's Treetop Temple. First to collect 2 stars wins. Each star costs 20 coins, and you traverse through the same board as usual. There's nothing really to say here, everything stays the same. There are 2 new spaces though. Challenge spaces and versus spaces. Versus spaces act as a duel minigame in which you're forced to play upon landing on it. Wait, so you're telling me that my idea that I had earlier is an actual f***ing thing? With the same dartboard as well! I swear to f***ing God, this game makes no sense. Challenge spaces are solo minigames that the player must complete. If you win them, you get to spin the dartboard for coins. There are only 3 possible minigames, so it gets repetitive. Because these minigames only appear here, I'll explain them here. Stampede. The player uses motion controls to stamp the emblem onto the paper. Every now and then, a Bowser emblem will appear. Avoid those. The player must use the A or B button to move the sheet to the side and keep stamping. If you stamp a Bowser emblem, you'll lose 2 points. Players must get 20 points within 20 seconds in order to win. There are a finite amount of pieces of paper, so if you do just spam the stamps hoping to eventually get to 20 before the timer runs out, you can't really do that. By default, you have to avoid at least 1 Bowser paper in order to get to the goal. Trust me, I've tried many times to cheese this game out of boredom. Fruit Picker. There are 5 fruits a player must memorize on the wheel. Orange, cherry, grape, apple, and banana. 1, 2, or 3 of those 5 fruits will show up on the boxes. The player must pick those fruits correctly in order to win. If you select the wrong one, you lose. If you try and pause the game, they actually cover the fruits until you unpause the game, which is a neat little detail to try and prevent cheating. Other than that, I can't really say much about this game. Pour to score. Shy Guy will show a specific number and he wants you to pour grains of sand that lies between the threshold. The zone will always be 5 grains of sand. There is a time limit, but just know that going over the zone results in an automatic loss. This one is the hardest in my opinion, just simply because of motion controls and how specific Shy Guy is about his sand. Back to the board, this is the only board not altered in terms of spaces. The layout is a tad bit changed, but it still keeps the same amount of spaces. Every other board is made shorter, except for Boo's Haunted Hideaway, which we'll get to. Goomba's Booty Boardwalk. This board is now cut in half, and your main objective now is to reach Goomba with 50 coins in hand. Don't have 50 coins, get sent back to start and come back. And also the stupid cannon is still here. Thankfully, it doesn't screw you over as much because you start at the beach instead of what I always assume to be Delfino Plaza. One thing I forgot to mention with the last board, but when either you or the CPU are close to completing the objective, a special bonus happens for the person in last place. The person in last gets a spin at the dartboard for something. That something being nothing, soda, a candy, or 20 coins. It really just feels like a slap in the face to even offer nothing, especially since the person is already in a losing situation. Why did this game make so many stupid decisions? And better yet, why are all of these situations harming the player in last place? I deadass lost the train map because I landed on nothing. If I had gotten the coins, I would have been able to win. But because this game is stupid, I had to replay the entire board. Yeah, that's right. If you lose, you have to restart. Despite these boards being shorter, having less people, and simple goals to accomplish, on average, these boards still take 20 to 30 minutes. Koopa's Tycoon Town in story mode took me 33 turns just to complete the first time going through it. Why is it so hard for this game to make a good decision? Anyways, these bonuses happen when a player is super close to winning. In DK's board, it happened after the first star was purchased. Here, it happens once somebody gets their 50 coins. I guess it's a bonus, but the dartboard is really dependent on timing. King Boo's Haunted Hideaway. Yes, of course I have a lot to say about this board. It's not my fault every good decision made to this game was on this board. The objective is to find 2 stars first, but here's the twist. The board does not change. Instead, there is a set layout. Obviously, every time you play story mode, it'll change before you start the game, but that's it. There are 5 rooms, 3 contain King Boo, while the other 2 contain pitfalls. Once a room is found, it's marked off on the map, and you get sent back to start. However, the other person stays where they are, continuing on the route they're exploring. This creates the only instance in story mode where the board is bigger than party mode. In fact, the board doubles in size. Donkey Kong covers all of the pitfalls, giving an opportunity to find a pitfall room and change the way you obtain a star. Bowser covers all of them in return. For most people, this is the hardest board to win in story mode, and I can see why. I said it felt like CPUs knew where all the stars were on the party mode version of this board. However, I can't say the same for this version. Although this might just be me because when I ran through this board, Mario had the worst luck I've ever seen an AI have. The board not changing is a good change only for story mode. Realistically, the only way you could have changed this board to make it work as a duel would be to add more pitfalls or the way they already did it. The first option would obviously take forever. Once again, the special bonus appears after the first star is bought. I'm telling you, they just keep giving interesting things to this board. There's a reason why I think it's my favorite. Shy Guy's Perplex Express. No need to reach the engine room because this time your goal is to get 50 coins at once and bring them to Holly Koopa. Oh, that's her name. I like Celebrity Koopa better. The engine room is here to give you a boost in coins. Every time you reach the Shy Guy, he'll give you 10 coins. Also along the train are coin blocks that you hit for additional coins. These have been apparent throughout all of the boards, but these blocks only matter on boards where the objective is to get a selected amount of coins. So only this board and Goomba's Booty Boardwalk. These blocks give you relatively low coin amounts, those being 1, 5, and 10. That's right, more opportunities to roll ones. If you paid attention to all the times I showed myself rolling a 1 in party mode, trust me, it did not stop here, whatsoever. Once again, the moment you hit 50 coins, the special bonus appears. The Perplex Express is the shortest out of all of the boards. There are only 3 train cars this time, while keeping a lot of the movement-based happening spaces. It's very easy to travel and quickly get 50 coins. Having to replay this board sucks, but at least I'm glad I repeated this board instead of one of the much longer ones. There's nothing really to say here, it's the same objective as Goomba's board. Koopa's Tycoon Town. Okay, so my capture card gave out right before I entered this map, so all remaining footage will be other people playing, giving them on-screen credit for their gameplay, of course, because there is no way in hell I'm going through that entire mode again just to record these last 2 maps. Get 4 stars by investing into hotels. The entire top path is completely cut off, so we only get to invest in 3 total hotels. This map takes forever to complete, because it's just you and another person competing. You essentially just match whatever the other person puts into the hotel. You are stuck at a standstill for so long in this version. You really just have to be the one to promote the first hotel to win. The special bonus happens once someone has 3 stars. If you lose a star and then regain the star to achieve your 3 total stars again, the bonus won't reappear. It's only the first time someone has hit 3 stars. The AI for this board just likes dumping whatever they have into the current hotel they're at, unless they can't overtake the lead. Then, they decide to dump like half of their coins into the hotel. If you can somehow take advantage of the AI being stupid half the time, then this board should be really easy. But also, it's them being severely stupid that leads them to winning by accident a lot. That previous investment, when they come around again, really bites you back. Now that we've been through the 5 boards, MC Ballyhoo reveals that there's an even better prize than just candy. A body pillow of the Star Rod. Bowser sees this all the way from wherever he came from and steals it, and decides, let's fly to space with it. Were the chicken noises really necessary? You already called me a chicken, bro. I feel like Bowser would make a good dad. Seriously, I really enjoy some of the dialogue in this game. Bowser's Warped Orbit, our final map. We gotta get the Star Rod back and beat all of his loyal slave. I mean, I guess it's true. He either sends out Blooper or Hammer Bro. So I guess he only has one slave. The objective is to steal every single star from your opponent. Once you do so, the game stops. Do you know how long this goes on for? Pretty long ass time, man. Especially since it's just you and all his slave on the board. Each player starts with 3 stars. There's no other way to get stars into circulation because DK just gives you a bullet or Bowser candy. But yet, Bowser still steals a star from you, so you can only subtract the total amount of stars in play. Imagine losing like this, or winning like this. That's gotta be the most infuriating thing to experience, and then having to restart the board all over again. There is also one less junction, making it so that there are left save spaces on the board. Yo, I ain't gonna lie, I think Bowser could beat Super Hot Fire in a rap battle. Bowser comes down and thinks that the Star Rod is an Etsy product, so he gives it back. Then moments later, realizes that he should fight back for it. What the f, man, you just gave me the weapon to defeat you. Anyways, for the boss fight, you dodge his attacks and use your Wii Remote to wave the rod and throw magical orbs back at Bowser. A truly immersive motion control experience. As he gets weaker, his clown car gets stronger, giving you more attacks to dodge, including a laser gun. Alright, man. You have to hold down the A and B button throughout the entire time you try to throw the orbs, otherwise shit like this happens. Defeat Bowser, return to Earth, and where's the girl? Only reason I did this shit was for the Huzz. Yeah, so, you unlock the character you just beat in space, then you gotta do this all over again to unlock the other slave. God, I hate 100% in games. If playing through all of the boards weren't so tedious and boring, I wouldn't mind it, but we don't live in that reality. You can't tell by the recording, but my rotted TikTok brain was on Instagram Reels for like half of the story mode. The boards themselves aren't too bad, I just think there are some questionable decisions, like the train only having 20 spaces. This feels like a gauntlet rather than a solo adventure or story, up until, you know, Bowser coming down to Earth. To be honest, I don't even think there is a story at all, even with the addition of Bowser's escapade in the end. I know technically this is optional, but not doing this makes it so you miss out on an entire board and 2 new characters. In fact, you can literally play all of these altered versions of the board as a dual option in party mode. I don't think this completely knocks the game down. So why did I say this game was sort of a disaster? Well, there's a couple things I haven't talked about yet. Yeah! Motion controls plus an unpolished minigame selection plus a terrible presentation add up to be something of a diabolical nature. I'm not just talking about the quality of the minigames, they f***ing messed up everything. I didn't want to talk about this while talking about the boards because then that section would have taken up at least 90% of the video. Instead, I'm going to talk about it as its own individual section. First, I'll talk about how they're incorporated with the party boards as usual, and then with the minigame tent. Minigames happen after every round once everyone has moved. The different types of minigames are free-for-all, 2 versus 2, and 1 versus 3. The type of minigames you play are determined by the color of space you land on. The teams will always be red versus blue if there are different colors landed on. If you land on a lucky or green space, the color will be randomly changed to either red or blue. Free-for-all minigames happen when everyone lands on the same color. These minigames involve everyone going against everyone in competition for first. There's a random chance that a battle minigame appears instead of a free-play minigame. These minigames will have you bet your own money in the pot, and the winners will be given coins according to their placement within the minigame. The battle system is implemented into every minigame in future installments, starting with Mario Party 9 and on. You don't bet your own currency, instead it would go something more like this. In Mario Party 9, first would get 5 mini-stars, second would get 3 mini-stars, third would get 2 mini-stars, and last would get 1. This system works fine for those games because that is the only currency. There are no stars or coins, just mini-stars. But when you add that system to a game where there are stars and coins, the entire thing makes no sense. Like in Jamboree, if I got 3rd place, I still got coins regardless of the fact that I lost. That's what I hate about the newer games, is that it makes minigames less important and inflation hits hard. They should have just kept the battle system exclusive to battle games like how it was for 8 Mario parties. Sorry, I get off topic a lot. 1 versus 3 minigames have a team of a solo player beat the team of a 3. And dual minigames, well, you already know what I think about those. But just to say it again, you and another player participate in a 1v1 game where something can be stolen from the losing player. 2v2 minigames have a team of 2 going against another team of 2 in hopes that your team is better than the other team. Now that I've explained the minigame's relevance in terms of board play, let's talk about the minigames themselves. I won't be talking about every single minigame individually, as that would make this way too long. I already have so much to talk about here. But I will be pointing out some memorable ones and some terrible ones whenever given the chance. So let's start with this. I'm going to be talking about these minigames from the minigame tent just so I can easily pick the games I want to record when talking about these. But before I can talk about anything, can I just say that these minigame instructions are the worst to ever exist. In every Mario Party, there has been some sort of creativity or aesthetic that makes it charming. We load in and the first thing we see is a dull shade of green with so much empty space. What is the first thing you expect to see on an instruction screen? Instructions, right? Well, I guess Mario Party 8 didn't get the memo, because where are the f***ing instructions? Oh, let me tell you, on a separate screen. Just a wall of f***ing text. Bro, I'm losing my voice. Oh, and while we're at it, here are some shitty visuals of the Wii Remote. We can't even see what motion does what, just a description of what it's supposed to do. Now, good designers have great organization within a limited space. Those same designers know how to use the space effectively. Neither of these are accomplished here. I feel like I'm the only person genuinely disappointed by this. The fact that you managed to fit the rules with the pictures of our characters shows that you could have made this the default screen. There is no point in even having this default screen other than having the icons of the characters. Might I remind you, is on the control screen. If you can make the icons that small, then you could have done the same for the rule screen. I don't know, I feel like I'm the only one bothered by how stupid this is from a design perspective. It's bland, dumb, and the practice button is perfectly blended in with the normal buttons, so by accident you could hit it when trying to learn the rules of the minigame. I hate it. Not to mention that these minigames also have very monotone and boring songs playing alongside them. I'm going to give you examples of songs that play in minigames from other Mario parties. Not just in general, I'm going to give you examples for all moods. Happy songs, dreadful, chaotic, you name it. Starting with the happy minigames from other Mario parties. All of these songs have that bouncy or waving feel that they're trying to achieve. What do we get from Mario Party 8?
Go!
It sounds robotic. It sounds like what you get after releasing a Taylor's version of an album, an uninspired cash grab that has no love. Let's hear the dreadful songs.
Go!
And now, what do we get from Mario Party 8?
Go!
What the f is this? Now, moving to those frantic songs that get the heart pumping. These minigames are somewhat simple in concept, but the music is what amplifies the gameplay, giving you this sort of adrenaline rush. I can somewhat give props to Mario Party 8 because these kinds of songs are okay and are the only ones that kind of stand out. Even the instruction menu screen has a bland song. Yes, I'm going this far with the music. All of these are so inviting and complement the instruction screen, but in Mario Party 8, I feel absolutely nothing. The reason I am so critical of these songs is because these songs are within the same combine of Koopa's Tycoon Town, Bowser's Warped Orbit, Goomba's Booty Boardwalk. I fully believe that the correct usage of songs amplifies the minigame experience, and is another reason why I think the minigames are the worst part of Mario Party 8, which is disappointing to say since minigames are where you see the most competition and excitement. Speaking of which, this is the first game since Mario Party 3 to not have Bowser minigames, and the first game since 5 to not have Donkey Kong minigames. I also feel like this was a huge miss because as the series went on, the better these minigames got, and I would have liked to see how we incorporated them into making minigames. Instead, they just decided not to make them at all. Now, I would talk about this menu because it's also dog shit, but I've got minigames to cover. The free-for-all minigames, or as the game calls them, 4-player minigames, are minigames in which everyone goes against each other. There are 18 of these in total. One big thing that every single minigame tries to incorporate is motion controls, and that by far is my biggest problem with the majority of these games. A lot of these games feel changed last second to try and incorporate these controls, because like I had mentioned, this was originally a GameCube port. Some of these games were just not made with the Wii Remote in mind, and that last minute switch is what makes a lot of these games feel super clanky and unpolished. Treacherous Tightrope, Flip the Chimp, In the Nick of Time, Rudder Madness, and Speedy Graffiti are all games that come to mind when I think of clanky minigames in the 4-player category. Motion controls for a lot of these games are just you pointing and clicking at the screen, which, yes, is technically a motion, but when there are motion minigames that have you pretending to lasso barrels, punch statues, swing a baseball bat, shoot a basketball, or change the camera angle to continue your progress through an obstacle course, all within the same game, was there really a need to have so many point-and-click minigames? Don't get me wrong, I think there are some good ones. In fact, my favorite 2v2 minigame is a point-and-click game. I'm just saying I've seen some footage of unused minigames and we've missed out on some really creative ones. Even in the instruction screen for Speedy Graffiti, we can see the player who is red is clearly struggling to play the game. He might just be ass, but that should not be in the example screen. I genuinely find just scribbling across the stone to be an effective strategy rather than actually drawing. In the Nick of Time is a very touchy game that is done way better in Mario Party 9 with twist ending. In fact, Mario Party 9 did so much better with the motion controls, but I've already told you that I think that game is overhated. Flip the Chimp is also really touchy and flips even when you make the slightest movements. Shake It Up taught me how to jerk off, and Rudder Madness might be the dumbest minigame to ever exist. Why are we moving so slow? Accompanied by motion controls. You don't even need to move in this game. I swear, some of these minigames would be leagues better as button minigames, rather than Hudson trying to force unpolished movements just because.
Oh my god, we need motion controls!
Not to mention, there are also things called coin minigames. The main goal is to just collect as many coins as possible. In my personal opinion, if a coin minigame is one of your strongest minigames in your game, then I'm sorry, but your minigame section is ass. I mean, some of the results of these minigames don't make any sense either. Look at this clip.
Who is the best at doing that?
That looks like me.
I mean, yeah, it does.
And it's Tim.
What?
Wow! Twice!
What's with this minigame?
It looked like you, it really did!
Green was clearly higher than red. If I had to pick my favorites from the free-for-all category, it would have to be Lava or Leave 'em, Sick and Twisted, Swing Kings, Water Ski Spree, and Alpine Assault. The minigames that I didn't mention are just alright, I guess. 1 versus 3 minigames. Somehow, we could only come up with 9 of these. And for how often these kinds of minigames happen, it gets repetitive very quickly. The main problem with these games is one side is given a clear advantage over the other. It depends on which minigame though, sometimes it's obvious that the 3 has the advantage, other times it's the 1 that has the advantage. My most obvious pick to show this is Jump Rope. One player spins the rope while the other 3 have to jump over it for 15 seconds. If the one player goes as fast as possible, it is physically impossible for a person to keep up jumping for 15 seconds. Might I even mention this game has motion controls? For the one player, I understand the motion, but for the 3 to have to flick the remote to jump, it's not possible if I just go. In team-based minigames, when one side has motion controls, it is almost certain that the other side has motion controls, even when it doesn't make sense. The only game that doesn't force controls like this is Power Trip and Gun the Runner. In Gun the Runner, the 3 have to point and click at the screen, while the one person tries to run and jump their way up the obstacle course. Power Trip has the one using motion controls to tilt the machine into the team of 3 trying to dodge. The coin minigame for the 1 versus 3 category is Grab and Gold. The game has the team of 3 working together with 3 small baskets collecting coins, while the 1 has a giant basket collecting coins. It's alright, I guess. Swervin' Skies, Butt Bombs Away, and Picture Perfect are the only 1v3 minigames I enjoy and feel are the fairest on both sides. Other than that, I could really care less about the other ones in this category. It's really a disappointing category, especially with how few there are here. 2v2 minigames. Have you and a partner working together to defeat the other team. There are 10 of these, and some of these are really questionable. King of the Thrill isn't even a 2v2 minigame. There are 2 teams and you fight someone on the other team trying to knock them off the cliff. Then the winner goes to the top of the cliff and they fight. How is this even a 2v2 minigame? If one team wins both of the fights, the minigame just stops. Even if you try to make them switch the order and have the teams face their friend to send one to defeat the foes, that doesn't make sense either, because what's the point of a team? Don't get me wrong, I think this is a great idea for a minigame. It just doesn't belong as a 2v2 team minigame. This should be a battle minigame, because then there would be a pot on the line. Since the pot is split among the top 3 people, you could have the losers of the first fights face off for 3rd place to see who gets the lowest split of the pot, while simultaneously having the top 2 fight. This right here makes so much more sense than what we got. Another super questionable 2v2 is Winner or Dinner, a coin collecting minigame that requires no teamwork whatsoever. You just kind of run around and hope the piranha plants don't bite you. This should have also been a free-for-all minigame. The only redeeming quality it has is that just everyone dies at the end. Don't get me wrong, there are some really great 2v2 minigames like Grabby Gridiron. This is a game with really bouncy footballs and you have to score on the opponents while they try to score on you. Lean Mean Ravine is a racing game that requires teamwork and has great motion controls. Booting Gallery is my favorite 2v2 minigame and it's a super fun point-and-click shooter game. There are some good ones here, I just feel like they didn't know what to do with this category, so they kinda just chucked some random games and turned them into a 2v2 makeshift and missed terribly, which sucks because there are only 10 of these. Battle minigames. I mentioned that these games have a pot system. The players each put in a coin amount determined by roulette and then compete to earn those coins. First place gets 70% of the pot, second gets 25%, which essentially you just get your money back, and third gets 5%. Last gets nothing. These, for the most part, are all really good minigames. The only one I kinda don't like is Aim of the Game. You have to build the highest total using the cards that you shot. It's really who just shoots the first 50 and then multiplies it for their next 4 cards. Cut from the Team is your standard luck-based game in which you cut a rope in hopes that it doesn't launch you. Very high stakes. Snipe for the Picking is a reaction time based minigame in which a board with various values will pop up and disappear quickly, changing the layout every single time. Be quick but also aim for the highest value. The higher the value, the smaller the circle. Saucer Swarm has you shooting away these little alien looking creatures. If they touch your ship, you get stunned. And Glacier Meltdown is a minigame in which you try to push everyone off the glacier. This one gets a bit annoying because of how hard it is to knock your opponent off when there's only 2 of you left. There's really only 5 of these minigames. At least 80% of them were good. Duel minigames. The only way to activate these are through Duelo Candy if you're in party mode. In story mode, the Versus Spaces activate a duel minigame, so they don't appear that often when playing through a board. So somebody please tell me why we have 27 duel minigames. An even bigger problem is that a third of these minigames are carbon copies of minigames from other categories. I'm not kidding. Swing Kings, Aim of the Game, Bumper Balloons, Paint Misbehavin', Sugar Rush, Shake It Up, Saucer Swarm, and Flip the Chimp are all duel minigames. Aim of the Game ends in a tie every single time because of how easy it is to max out the value of your 5 cards. Even if we remove all of these copy minigames, there are still 19 original duel minigames. Still the highest number of any category. It's not like these are terrible duel minigames in the first place. In fact, almost all of them are way better than the copied minigames. These copied minigames give us a lower chance of even seeing these unique duel minigames. I actually think that some of the duel minigames were converted into 2v2 and free-for-all minigames. Paint Misbehavin' does not feel like it should be a 2v2 minigame after playing them back to back. Saucer Swarm feels a lot more competitive being a duel minigame, and the fact that Aim of the Game is also a duel minigame means that there are only 3 unique battle minigames. What the hell? While I think there are duel minigames that got turned into party games, I also think the opposite came into effect as well, where party games got turned into duel minigames. Sugar Rush being a duel minigame just makes the game take longer. Now I get to jerk off with a partner, and Swing Kings is also a minigame. I consider the duel category to be the strongest minigames, even without the 8 copied minigames. Let me just list all of the minigames I enjoy from the duel selection. Attention Grabber has you waving your arms to attract a ship to an abandoned island you're stuck on. Blazing Lassos has you swinging a rope around like a cowboy. Wing and a Scare has the most precise and responsive motion controls out of any Mario Party 8 game. This game right here is how the entire game should have felt. Lava Lobbers has you trying to shoot your opponent off the rails while dodging their attacks. Locomotives requires a ton of focus keeping the trains from popping your balloons as they progressively get faster and faster. Spectre Inspector requires you to find characters within a haunted building. This game is cool as hell. You're the Ba-Bomb has you taking turns trying to blow the other person's Ba-Bomb before they blows yours up. Cardiators is basically an RPG minigame, and Rotation Station is a parkour game that requires you to change the perspective using motion controls in order to advance. This isn't even half of the list. I could go on and on about these minigames, but I think you get the idea. Obviously, there are some duds, like Eyeball, where the 4:3 aspect ratio genuinely disrupts you from going around the eyeball, or Frozen Assets, where you can go multiple rounds without even getting a gem. This is a strong roster, but unfortunately, there's a 33% chance you won't even get to see one of these, because the game would rather you play something that can be played with all 4 players. Nothing changes about them, just the fact that it's only 2 people. They don't make them harder either. The only justification I have for them doing this is so that these games can come up during story mode. But once again, let me say, without these duplicate minigames, there are still 19 of them, the most out of any category. Challenge minigames are where you can play the solo minigames, and the last minigame is where you can play the final boss on your own time. Now that I've given a rundown on the minigames, time to explore the side modes in the minigame tent. Crown Showdown, the classic mode in which you have to win a set amount of minigames first. You can choose from 3, 5, or 7 wins. They also added in an additional dual showdown where you and someone else have to reach a set amount of wins first. You can choose from 4-player minigames, 1v3 minigames, or 2v2 minigames. Or if you choose random, you can have them all included. Minigames are selected at random, and that's all there is to this mode. Flip Out Frenzy. Win minigames and you get to select any tile you want. When selecting a tile, you can also get a tile in every direction. Once you claim that tile, the only way it can be taken is when someone else wins and their tile path intersects yours. You have to pick an open tile. Once all the open tiles are taken, Ballyhoo smashes 2 of the 4 black tiles, giving you 2 more minigames you could possibly win and providing somewhat of a shakeup. After that, the winner is determined by who has the most tiles. I like this mode. I personally thought he was going to smash all 4 of them, but it kind of makes sense that he doesn't. If he smashed all 4 of them, that would kind of be broken and also make everything before that not matter all too much. Tic Tac Drop, a dual minigame showdown. Win a minigame and you get to drop a ball into the Tic Tac zone. This acts as a tic-tac-toe game but with Connect 4 mechanics. You don't get to pick the middle square right away, you have to build up to it. Which means your best option is to just get a stack as quick as possible, or a horizontal line if you want to go that route. This combination of games kinda leads to a lot of ties, and if you do run into a stalemate, you have the option to keep going and reset the board, or you could stop. I really like this option because if you do keep running into a stalemate, at least you have the option to stop. It would definitely be a lot better than going into game 12 of Tic Tac Drop with what seems to be like no end. Test for the Best. This is a solo mode that has to be bought from the shop, something we'll cover later. This is basically a 1-player decathlon in which you aim to complete the minigame in the best desired time or highest score, whichever is required. You play the same 10 minigames every time, those being Alpine Assault, Eye on the Prize, Cartastrophe, Pumper Cars, Rotation Station, Saucer Swarm, Settle It in Court, Snipe for the Picking, Surf's Way Up, and Swing Kings. However, the order you play them in will be different every single time. The better you do in the minigame, the more points you earn. Unlike previous decathlon game modes where the point system determined the winner, this mode uses a grading system with up to 1,000 possible points up for grabs each minigame. A cute little detail is that certain score ranges give you a cool nickname. I mean, I too would also want to be called the Quicksilver Separator. If you do bad, you're given a bad name, like Benchwarmer. Shout out to all the people in JV basketball and sit on the bench. If you get a perfect score, you actually land on the moon and celebrate with these very questionable looking alien Shy Guys. I personally would have preferred if the decathlon mode had a version for both a solo run and with everyone, but that's just me. Not like people play this mode on a daily basis anyways. The reason I waited to talk about the minigames and go so in depth into them is because this is easily the biggest con in Mario Party 8. Yeah, you can blame this for them porting it onto the Wii last second, but that's not an excuse considering how there are some games that perform so smoothly, and then the quality randomly drops to 0 in another minigame. There's no consistency within the games, and a lot of them are an absolute snooze fest to play. The balancing on the 1v3 games are also the worst I've seen. Some of these feel like an automatic win for a certain side just when you see it being selected, which is a sad statement to say when there are only 9 of these. When I see the roulette spinning, I'm not hoping to get my favorite minigame, I'm hoping that I don't land on one of the mini duds in this game. I should not be hoping to have a functional minigame, I should be wanting to play my personal favorites. Having that mindset when it comes to minigames is really what weighs this game down for me. Anyways, out of the minigame talk and into the extra zone. The first thing I would like to mention is that you have the option to play as a Mii character in this mode. I really want to think about a Mario game where I have my Miis play across the boards and minigames mixed in with the Mario characters. I feel like that would be stupidly hilarious. Now, before entering the extra zone, there are 8 minigames here. 4 of them have to be bought in the store. Only one of them allows for 4 players to play at once, while one of them is a solo minigame. So 6 of them allow only 2 players to play. Let's get into them. First up is bowling, basically Wii Sports, although it does control a bit differently. You have the option to play either 10 or 5 frames, which as always includes some options if you don't want to do a full 10 frames. Because trust me, bowling takes a while. One of the most annoying things about this version of bowling is the fact that the B button is the scoreboard. It is just a natural instinct to grip the Wii remote like I'm actually bowling. Having the fingers you usually hold the bowling ball with be the button to show your scoreboard is really infuriating. Just like Wii Bowling though, any tilt in the remote and it'll curve or move that way. Letting go of the A button early will always result in a gutter as well as it rolling too slow. Bowling is still fun, but like, we have Wii Sports. I'd rather go bowling there. Trial by Tile is a 2-player game in which a screen will show a pattern found within a grid. You have to hover your cursor over the given pattern before the other person in order to earn a point. There's 1 minute on the clock and both people go until the timer runs out. Whoever has the most points wins. You can also do all of these games solo, which is cool. In a solo run, there are 4 levels you have to go through, each giving 5 different tiles you need to find, and your goal is to get the best time. I like this game, but there's not much to say about it. The tiles it requires you to find vary from 2 to 4. If they shortened the time or added a cap to the number of points, I could have honestly seen this game in the normal rotation of minigames. Flagging rights. Simon Says, but with motion controls. You also need a nunchuck in order to play this game. So if you don't have one, you can't play this game. You hold the nunchuck in your left and the Wii remote in your right. Sometimes the Shy Guy raises both flags, and in return, you also have to raise both flags. A slight difference in this game compared to the original Shy Guy Says that we're used to. In solo, you go until you fail. With 2 players, you go until one of you fails. Canyon Cruisers is basically Lean Mean Ravine, but a 1v1, or just a very fast stroll through the park. This is another minigame in which I wonder why it wasn't part of the normal rotation of minigames. It's long for possible comebacks, it's fun and fast, and just a really cool game overall. Another gold bar stuck in the vault for some reason. Table Menace is table tennis, straight up with no Mario elements, first to 11. Now, the one random thing I noticed about this game is the usage of the font from Mario Party 7. I don't know why, that's always just one of the first things I notice. This is pretty cool and is the exact way you would play actual table tennis, which I'm a fan of. Although there should be some Mario element in these sports games, like maybe an additional mode. Like how when volleyball was an extra game mode in Mario Party 5 and you had your normal volleyball, but you also had the dice ball and Ba-Bomb Ball. Just more options to add to that Mario goofiness that we usually see. Puzzle Pillars is the required puzzle game that every Mario Party game has. Link 4 more blocks of the same color horizontally to clear them. The objective is to collect the most coins. There are some columns with amps on them, but if you grab them, then they stun you, and you can't move for a bit. You can also press B while holding down the column to flip it, but other than that, this is kind of just your normal block puzzle minigame. Chomping Frenzy is one that I feel like could have been an amazing stress-inducing dual minigame. To start, there are 2 chain chomps and they want some fruit. The longer it takes for you to feed them, the angrier they get. Once you feed them their desired fruit, they go back to sleep like a good boy. You yourself have to shuffle through the fruit. Just because they ask for an apple doesn't mean that's what's in hand. If you fail to give the chain chomps all of their fruits before time expires, they get angry and eat you instead. Each stage adds more chain chomps that you have to feed, which is what makes this game so fun. You can see them getting angry as well, so you have a visual clue as to which chain chomp is the angriest. If they formatted this a bit differently but kept the main concept, this could have easily been a fun dual minigame in my mind. The final extra minigame is Moped Mayhem. Mario Kart with 30 racers, and also no items. The only problem with no items is that once you pass someone, it's really hard to give up that lead. I might just be the reason blue shells were invented, but once I hit first, there's no one in sight. In 2-player mode, it doesn't matter once you finish as long as you're ahead of the other player. As much as I think having 30 characters is cool, my god did they pick some terrible characters. There are 3 possible tracks you could race on. The first one is a simple square, 3 laps, just a couple light turns, no biggie. The second track has some pretty sharp turns that require you to slow down a bit and then accelerate. If you don't, you'll go into the grass. The final course has all sorts of turns and can actually be quite a challenge. While this has basically the same controls as Mario Kart Wii, don't expect it to perform like Mario Kart Wii as well. This is basically a Walmart version of it. It's not bad, but if you have Mario Kart Wii, just play that. The Fun Bazaar. The final thing to go over in this game is the Fun Bazaar. This is where all of the shop items are, music and excess things you want to look at. This is also the place I have mentioned many times where you can buy the extra minigames and minigame mode. This is kinda just here to mess around with. You can play with the sounds of the game, the action figures you can buy can be put into a personal parade, and you can also view the staff credits here if you want to. Now that I have covered every single thing within the game, I think I can finally completely tell you my personal pros and cons with this game, starting with the pros. These boards are some of the best we've ever seen, and some of the highest highs within the series. Each board is unique not only visually, but mechanically. Alongside the boards are the songs that play when exploring them, a ton of catchy songs that make the world play super engaging. The extra zone is something I genuinely would say is worth trying out. A lot of these minigames I could see in the normal rotation, but instead are locked behind this vault. The non-copied dual minigames are the strongest minigames here. These are some of the most creative concepts and apply motion controls to their games in a way that makes it run super smooth. Like I had mentioned, Mario Party 8 experiences some of the highest highs we've seen, but also some of the lowest lows in the franchise as well. Here are the game's cons in my opinion. The presentation of this game might be the worst looking out of every game. The biggest issue being the aspect ratio and how that affects motion controls. I genuinely think that they could have had this game in a full 16:9. Even when it is in 16:9, the 4:3 parameters make absolutely no sense. The parameter also affects motion controls throughout some of the minigames as well. Eyebrow is the biggest offender of this, having to point your remote at the screen and spin it in circles. It is very likely that the Wii remote cuts off because, while yes, it's being recognized by the sensor bar, it's not being recognized by the game. Not even the aspect ratio is the problem. The graphics on this are also very inconsistent. Blurry backgrounds, chunky character sprites on the board that look HD during minigames. This game has the quality of Mario Party DS during some points of the game, which is not good considering that's a handheld game. Minigames not making sense or feeling like unnecessary conclusions, such as Winner or Dinner and King of the Thrill being 2v2, the copied dual minigames, and whatever the hell Rudder Madness is. The unpolished feel for most of these minigames, once again relating to the motion controls. I know I have harped on this for so much of the review, but it's the fact that we have the next game in the series doing so much better at perfecting this. That's why I'm so harsh on this game's controls, because trust me, you at one point have been confused or infuriated on why something happened due to motion controls. And it's not like it's a one-time thing either, it's just part of the game due to the fact that it feels added in so many areas where it shouldn't be. Usually, when the minigames come around, I'm hoping my favorite minigames get selected. When I play Mario Party 8, I'm just hoping we get a functional one. That to me should not be the mindset and not be what I'm focused on when trying to enjoy a game. Adding on to even more reasons I don't like the minigames, the music choices all sound the same. None of them give you that adrenaline rush or relaxed feeling as seen in previous games. Moving the Wii remote causes you to taunt during the board. These slightest movements cause this to happen, and it is really annoying. The lack of diversity as far as spaces. Every game has a unique space, like item spaces, dual spaces, and even if it didn't, adding events like throwing orbs onto spaces also made every playthrough a tad bit different. We have the box standard spaces in 8, and the only events we can do are through candies, and we can't make those a space. I said it before and will say it again, the versus space from the story mode should have been incorporated into the party boards. I also miss Bowser and Donkey Kong minigames, especially since the ones from Mario Party 7 were really good. And finally, story mode might be the most boring and dreadful experience to go through. It's fine if you don't want all the characters or you don't feel like unlocking the final board, but most people do. Especially since Bowser's Warped Orbit is a really good board. One run through the story mode takes about 1.5 hours, and that's without losing a single match. Then having to do it all over again just to get a character. You could possibly spend 4 hours here just playing the story mode. Even though I am a huge fan of the majority of the boards, playing a condensed version of them with little to no interaction with the opponent is not very fun. If you do like these condensed boards, there are options for you to do so in the party tent, making this mode only necessary for 2 run-throughs, or better yet, non-existent. So, with those being listed, Mario Party 8 is definitely a game. Don't get me wrong, I have had some great moments and fun playing this game. It's just that usually those moments come by quickly and go by quickly. Very short-lived. What's worse is that this was Hudson's last console Mario Party game before declaring bankruptcy, their last game being Mario Party DS, eventually leading to Mario Party 9, which was developed by ND Cube. That game gave us a car which was not very liked. Very unfortunate that their last console game was a stinker. There were many ways this game could have been so much better. I feel like if this wasn't a last-second port onto the Wii and they were given time to straighten out all the bugs and improve on their awful decisions, this game could have been way better than what was given to us. But we don't live in that reality, unfortunately. Hey, if you made it this far, I really appreciate that you stuck around for so long. I don't have a ton of time on my hands to be making these videos, so they take a while, but seeing people be invested into something I created always motivates me to try and make time for another video, and respond to comments who provide feedback or constructive criticisms, because after all, I am bound to make mistakes. I am just a normal guy after all. What can I say? I like talking about things I enjoy. If you enjoy my videos, it wouldn't hurt to stick around and wait for the next one. I usually try to keep it Nintendo related. But until then, see you guys.